Hi and welcome. This is neither here nor there. I am your host, No Special, and with me today is a special guest, Larry from the MK Discord, avid fan of the JBR as well, and also with us today is our amazing producer and editor in chief with his special team there with Chatri and Steven. And it's Dave. Today, me and Larry are going to be doing is doing a deep dive on welterweight. We ended the year with a welterweight fight, and we had a very special welterweight matchup in the previous pay-per-view. We wanted to kind of see what welterweight has to offer, why we both love it, and kind of go from there. Larry, introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah. Yep. Hello, bleeders. Glad to be back here after a long time. And thanks for letting me join you guys. Yeah. And I'm rapping from Luke's
perfect.
homeland, from India. And yeah, I would also like to make two clarifications. First of all, don't listen to Dana. Nobody in India watches Power Slap, much less UFC or anything. So he is a complete lying piece of shit. And second, Colby was never my friend. Okay, he lost badly, and that's what he deserved. He was never my friend. Yeah. Now we can start first. Sorry, your question was about the welterweight division, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is it
Yeah.
that you love about the welterweight, and why is it as exciting as it's been in a long time?
Well, if we have a look back, I mean, welterweight was the division of the greatest of all time, or my greatest of all time, George St. Pierre. And after he kind of left the division, I think Lawler had a good run, and then Usman again had a pretty much good run. So it's always been the division which has had good champions who had, of course, GSP had like the very long run. But apart from that, Lawler and Usman also had good runs. So it has always had fitting champions in the past. And right now, the division is stacked. If you just look at the rankings, I mean, top to bottom, it's stacked with brilliant contenders. And there's a guy who's champion. I don't even remember his name. I don't know why. But yeah, so that's how the division goes right now. And I'm super excited to see what's next for the welterweight division in 2025.
Nice. Yeah. That same. I have adored lightweight for the longest time, but welterweight has had it's had interesting kind of transitions from when we had the GSP era, when we had the Matt Hughes era previously to that, the Pat Miletich era before that, and then you had Tyron Woodley defeating Robbie Lawler in a violent fashion. You had Tyron Woodley getting just overwhelmed by Usman in a very dominant fashion. And then you had Usman lose his title in a very violent fashion. Recently, though, we've had two interesting outcomes with welterweight. An influx of new talent, which is usually a great thing to have in a division like welterweight, where you start to finally see new guys coming into the top 10, top 15, right? Finally pushing out the old guys. It's not that they're, incapable of fighting. We've seen guys kind of find their way back into the title picture before from, getting pushed out. But like seeing the contenders, young, new prospects actually become contenders in the division is something that's always nice to see, especially in a weight class that's as hard to get through as welterweight. Older names tend to stick around a lot longer in this division. Unlike other divisions, it seems like the weight class allows for specialists, guys who are very consistent with all-rounded techniques, and even guys who are just very limited, but just hard-headed. Like Colby Covington to survive. But that doesn't mean there's a shortage of good fighters. The welterweight, I think, like lightweight and other weight classes, it has an embarrassment of riches with talent. So, Dave, let's go ahead and get started with this. Could you read us the first question?
What is the next championship fight you'd like to see for the welterweight division?
Larry, I'll let you have the first question.
Yeah, and I think it's a no-brainer. he already had a title fight booked. Unfortunately, it got cancelled because the champion had a bone infection on his foot. And yeah, Shaukat won against Gary. I know people have their doubts now growing up as to would Shaukat be able to beat Bilal, but I still see him as the fitting contender, and Bilal versus Shaukat would absolutely or should absolutely be the next championship fight.
I full heartedly agree. I would have liked to have seen it sooner, but I think we needed to see Shafkat struggle against Gary in order to kind of have a better understanding of what his game is. And ideally, you would like to see your top fighters fight healthy, right? Bilal has every right to not be able to, take a fight or say yes to a fight if he's not 100%, especially as a champion, right? Whereas Shafkat, unfortunately, did not have the same luxury, and I believe he may have had an injury. There's no definitive answer, I believe, as of right now, while we're recording this, if there was or was not. DC says there was, but that's also DC saying it. But
Yeah.
I would say no. I think it should be the next fight. The only other caveat I would say to that, if it's not Shavkat, because Ramadan is around the corner, and unfortunately, the UFC doesn't always play to everybody's schedule. The only one I could think of that is if and when Jack E3 names Jack Della Maddalena fights or possibly gets rebooked with Usman, if that's still a thing that's going on. If you remember correctly, there was a broadcast where Lorosenko and half of the UFC broadcast team were basically saying Usman deserves a title shot, even though he's 0-3 in his last 3 fights, and his last 2 title fights he lost. Got knocked out and then lost the rematch, right, to Leon Edwards, who's no longer the champion. Then he takes on Khamzat Chimaev and loses a competitive fight. Arguably could have done more, and we see that Usman is still capable, but he hasn't fought any of the other ranked welterweights that are current. He has wins over Gilbert Burns, he has wins over Colby Covington. Masvidal is no longer with the promotion. It's interesting because he finds himself in a position where if he has one win, like say he beats Jack Della Maddalena, he's immediately right to the front of the line for title shot, right? Above most, if not all, the division, even before Leon Edwards. I would bet money that fight sells pretty well, but only because Usman gets a win. I don't think he deserves a title shot now, but we've seen weirder shit. So I would say that. But yes, I believe Shavkat should be the one. Shavkat should be the guy next in line. Hopefully the UFC is able to accommodate their schedules and we get to see that fight first. I was going to ask you, is that the fight too that you think Shavkat should be the next guy, Dave?
Yeah, it's a good fight.
Okay.
Just one quick thing. I think you said that George isn't under contract with the UFC anymore, and Masvidal still is.
It's not that I left. It's that they let me go do 3 boxing matches, so I still have a contract with them. But it's fucking. It was amazing, man. I knew it was time to box. I had been wanting to box.
So is that like not typical of them to do?
Not typical at all. I think I'm the first one that gets released for a multi-fight deal. They've done one-offs in boxing where they let a guy go box and come back, but they've never.
So you still will fight in the UFC again? Yeah,
well, I have now a contract with 3 fights for Fan Meal to do straight boxing and get the biggest matches we possibly come up with, and then I'm still under contract with the UFC.
But no, I do remember them saying something about George wanting to get back into the UFC, and Dana was like, no. Like, okay.
Yeah, he's still under contract though. He signed like an 8-fight deal, like before his last fight, or something. So
yeah, that makes sense. Of course, it does. Okay, could you read us the next one?
What are some future matchups that you'd like to see in the division?
I'll take this one first. I Mine is probably going to be very obvious on some of the matchups, and you'll if you kind of get my drift on some of these, you'll understand. One is Leon versus Gary. Now, it's not a fantasy matchup, I know, or like a matchup that's like it's a matchup that is a no-brainer. It makes sense because they're both like right there. They're both coming off of losses. Both are very well-rounded fighters. It would be interesting to see Leon fight someone who's his size and capable. But if Leon is still Leon, he'll still leave openings, and Gary might be able to just kind of steal rounds from him. That would be the only thing size in welterweight is interesting because you have guys who are super lanky and super tall, and then guys who are short and stocky. Usman and Leon, for instance, both completely different styles of fighting, and it's interesting to see. Now, the other ones are Sean Brady versus Usman. The grappler's delight right there. Brian Battle versus Carlos Prates. Primarily to see Brian Battle get knocked out, but that's just me. And then Michael Chiesa versus Michael Morales. The battle of the Michaels. The loser gets to keep the Michael name. And if Michael Chiesa wants to be a contender in this division, he's got to beat a guy who's literally doing the thing better than him and is younger. I would like to see that. Now, I know mine are pretty interesting, and there's kind of some vindictiveness to them. But Larry, I would like to hear yours.
As you said, there are a lot of combinations that could be made going into 2025 for welterweight divisions. And as you said, I also had Leon versus Gary on my cards, or just what I noted down. So I think that should be a good fight, and they should probably make it in London because that would definitely attract a lot of attention from a British as well as Irish crowd. So
that's like a pay-per-view fight.
I would not say pay-per-view because
that's like a pay-per-view fight
because Leon doesn't sell a dime at all. He just had his one kick of fame. That's all. He has always been a boring fighter. Nobody liked him ever. It was just one single kick that made him likable. And also the post-fight interview that he had with Joe Rogan, like headshot dead. So one kick and 2 words. That's all. And look at me now. So total of 5 words and a kick. That's all that.
Look at me now! Level you! Pound for pound! Headshot dead! That's it!
He has ever achieved in court of public opinion. I mean, what has got him famous? In a boring fighter, and I think we should not forget that the way people are hating Bilal, that was the exact way people used to hate Leon as well. But he was able to turn it around.
100%.
Yeah, so I think it should be a good fight, Leon versus Gary, and the location should preferably be in London because I think UFC has already announced they're going to London, probably in March, I think. Not sure whether it's a pay-per-view. I think it's a fight night, but I think I would put that on a fight night and not a pay-per-view because Leon is not going to sell, 250,000 or 300,000. That's all that fight would sell, I would say. And apart from that, contrary to what you said, I think you said Usman versus JDM. But I think that was on the cards before the Buckley versus Covington fight happened. But after Buckley just beat the shit out of Colby and the response he got from the crowd, I think the next fight that UFC will make would probably be Usman versus Buckley. And I think it came out from the media report or somebody said it, I don't know. But I read somewhere that Usman was reached out after Bilal had to pull out of the championship fight. So they were looking to match Usman versus Shaukat, but Usman denied that fight. So probably there was things that he noticed that weren't going to go his way. And now looking at Buckley, I mean, Colby wasn't able to take him down. But let's say, even if Usman is not able to take him down, I think he has good chance somehow. Maybe he's able to pull something up because against JDM, I think he would rather be more scared because JDM was able to turn around after going down pretty much 2 rounds and he was able to finish uh, Gilbert. So I think Usman versus Buckley is probably what's going to happen somewhere in Florida. I don't know. Maybe on the Miami card if that's happening in 2025. And I would match JDM with Sean Brady. It's a contrast of styles. Again, a stylistic matchup. We have got JDM good on the feet and Brady who's good on the ground. So it would be a good matchup and also a test for both of the fighters because although JDM clearly, I mean, he overcame the challenges he had to face in the Gilbert fight itself. Meanwhile, Brady is, I would say, trying to improve his striking and is yet to be tested. And I think JDM would be a perfect test for him to check out how's he improving on his striking front. Otherwise, I think JDM gets that fight, but I would still like to see that matchup happen. And probably that could be booked on the Sydney card. Maybe in February, we could be seeing JDM fighting Sean Brady because I also heard, I'm not sure, but there were talks of Usman versus JDM, as you said, but then somebody said that that fight is not happening or Usman is not fighting JDM. So probably JDM versus Sean Brady is something that we get to see then. And down going little down the rankings, I have got Carlos Prates, shining or rather rising welterweight of 2024. I would rather match him up with MVP. I know MVP has already got a fight book with Sharaputin Magomedov or Sharapulet. I think it's on the Saudi Fight Night. Yeah, and it's at the middleweight. So I'm assuming that MVP would be able to beat Sharapulit, and after that, I think he would be able to jump back to welterweight line because if you have a look at the rankings, Praches is currently ranked 13 and MVP is currently ranked 15 in the welterweight division. Now, it doesn't make sense to have Praches fight somebody below him since he's on the up and up. So if MVP is able to beat Shara, then there's a chance that you can call it something like fitting challenge for Praches, and then maybe you bring him back to welterweight and have him fight Carlos Praches, and it would be a good stylistic matchup, I would say. And a good challenge for Praches as well, because going up the line, there's a horde of contenders at the top, and there's intertwining matchups that fit up well, because I don't think Covington or Geoff Neal or Wonderboy, anybody's looking to find Praches. And the guy right ahead of him on 12th rank is Michael Morales, and it would be a crime to have these two guys fight right now. I mean, they both are they both are the future Shaukat versus Ian Carey. So probably in 2026 we could get to see that matchup, because that would be an interesting fight to see. So that's what my potential matchups or future matchups that I would like to see in welterweight division for next year.
Very, very nice. I like it. Like a little, trickle down effect that you did there with the going down the rankings and whatnot. I like that. Jeez. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Dave, if you could, please.
First of all, I just have to ask, what did Michael Chiesa do to hurt you? Giving him Miles Morales. Jeez. Pretty brutal.
It is a winnable fight.
I don't want to. It's just a time. I don't actually want to answer.
He wants to see a death, I guess.
I think I do.
All right. Who are some rising contenders and fighters to watch out for in 2025?
Interesting. This is one of those questions where it's like you could kind of pick and choose in this division, and it definitely there's not a real shortage of answers. Larry, I'll go ahead and throw this one to you.
Yeah, so again, I would be not going too deep, and I would just focus on the guys who are ranked as of now, and we already named both of them. So first is Michael Morales. He's currently ranked 12th in the welterweight division, and his record goes, he's had 5 fights in the UFC so far, and he's had three finishes out of those 5, and he only had 1 fight in 2024. So I'm hoping, I don't know what's going in the background with him, but I'm looking forward to see him fight probably twice or at least thrice in the coming year. He's an interesting prospect because 3 finishes out of 5 fights is actually good. And if we go down to see who's he fought, he beat the shit out of Neil Magny in the very first round. That was in the August card, probably it was on the fight night. He beat him within first round ground and pound. So, and apart from that, he's beat some unknown names, I would say. So, would be fitting to see him fight some real contenders or the gatekeepers of the welterweight divisions like Colby or Burns. I don't know. Even that could be a good match. Yeah, just beat the shit out of Colby and get him retired, man. Come on. You can do that.
We're almost there. We almost got him.
Yeah. Just beat his ass. Come on. You could do that. Come on. Michael would do that. So that would be good to see. And the answer is Carlos Prates. He's 4-0 in the UFC and all finishes. So that speaks for itself. There's nothing much more to be said about him. He is the rising star, and let's just beat somebody. Don't just have him fight Wonderboy or you'll kill him. Probably give him a tougher matchup like MVP because there's Geoff Neal to fight. So, and those fights would be winnable for him. And this year he already, again, both of these guys have beat Neil Magny. So Prates also beat Neil Magny in November fight night. And then he also had beaten the Leash on the UFC 305, Duplessis versus Adesanya card. So I would say his track record in terms of the quality of fighter he's faced is much better than Michael Morales. But I would say they are both equally going to have a good year coming up and should be the stars to look out for.
Very nice. Yes. I like your list. Mine is a little lower, more newer fighters, not in the sense of guys who have risen in the ranks necessarily. Because I'll read some names and you tell me if you've heard of them. If they make sense. I know you kind of like these ones are a little bit more
I don't think you're going to name Brian Battle. That's what I know. But let's see.
Okay. Oban Elliott, fighter out of the Wales, I believe, or Welsh. I think he is Welsh. 27 years old and 12-2 currently. I believe he's 3-0 in the UFC as of right now. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah, I've heard of him, and I will just have a look at his record. Yeah, the Welsh gangster is 12-2.
Yes.
Oh, now, I think he trains with Jack Shaw. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you did. I have 2 others. Danny Barlow, who is 29, and he is 9-0 currently. He's way farther down on the ranking. But interesting guy. I think he could have lost. Well, maybe he arguably should have lost to a Uzbekistani fighter, if I'm not mistaken. But he's good enough to be there, although he still has a lot to work on. But he's young enough to kind of work on those things and still be effective. He's not 32, 33. He's a 28, 29, I believe. Yeah, actually, he is actually 29 currently, so he doesn't have a whole lot of time to kind of curb that out. But big athletic kid. Very willing to engage, but he's got a couple of things to work on. I would like to see him back inside the cage soon. And then Sandamar Muradov. I butchered that. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but he's 11-0 and he's 25 as a welterweight, and he came off of the road to UFC. That's a dude that anytime I see a Muradov or a specific type of naming, I'm immediately interested. Young kid, 11-0. I would like to see him, get some more matchups inside the UFC. Predominantly easygoing fights, and then last one is a weird one because you're probably not going to agree with me on this one, but it's Puliani Soriano, former middleweight, 32 years old. He's 10-4.
Come on.
Now he should just give me a minute, okay? Give me a minute. He changed weight classes. He's a welterweight now. He's using his wrestling.
Come on. He's a bum fight.
He is using his wrestling like he could not have done it at middleweight. Middleweight's got guys who are all good strikers, and they're a lot harder to take down because middleweight you got to be the bigger guys, bigger athletes. He was predominantly the smaller guy in the weight class every time he fought, almost like Robert Whittaker usually is, except he's not as athletic as Robert Whittaker. He's a little slow-footed. What works better at welterweight? Wrestling. This division is filled with grapplers, and he's capable enough to kind of be disciplined. He trains with Elite XC. Or Extreme Couture, I'm sorry. I don't know where it came from. But he's capable. He's capable. 32 years old. He's not 35. He's not shop-worn. He had a couple of tough fights at middleweight, and now he's looking decent at welterweight. He's not a world beater, but I have high hopes for him, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would say I would rather agree to disagree because, he's a nobody. And this is exactly your picking Kron Gracie moment, I would say. You picking Punael Soriano for the rising fighter to look out for next year. I mean, this is the exact moment the way you picked Kron Gracie to win against Bryce Mitchell. There's nothing more bad.
In my defense,
you can.
In my defense on that one, I did not think he was going to do that. Okay.
What else did you expect for him to do?
I did not know. I thought he was going to be better. Okay, I assumed more. I was wrong.
Yeah, I will give you a pass, I guess. And just to add, I think you named Danny Parlo, and his moniker or nickname is Left Hand to God. And left hand always rules. Left to clearing always rocks.
Yeah, no, he's an interesting cat. He's an interesting cat. Let's move on to the next question. Dave, if you could, please.
Who are some welterweight legends that should retire next year?
I'll go on this one first because I got an interesting list. Tell me if you could spot a theme, Larry. Tim Means, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Max Griffin, Neil Magny, RDA, and Colby. What do they all have in common?
Yeah, they're all about 35.
Close, but they were all finished in their last fights. all 6 of them.
Good for them, I guess.
No, really good. Because it's varying degrees of being finished, right? Tim Means gets submitted by Court McGee. Santiago Ponzinibbio gets spinning back kicked to the head by Muslim Salikov. Max Griffin gets submitted by Michael Chiesa. Neil Magny gets knocked out unconscious by a grazing punch via Carlos Pratis. RDA has his knee explode after getting bopped in the face by Jeff Neal. And then Colby Covington getting bludgeoned to death and acting like he still had a chance in the fight by Joaquin Buckley, varying degrees of being finished, varying degrees of success and, whatnot, and varying degrees of being shop-worn. And now I could honestly pick fighters who have won and who have, been, who could walk off into the sunset after getting a win. But for me, it's like these guys have proof in the pudding of you could not beat certain fighters and it's obvious. Now it could be bad matchups and whatnot, but this is specifically for these guys. It's like these guys were finished in fights that maybe a few years earlier they could have won, and it's blatantly obvious that like they're not getting any better, and some of them they should probably kind of consider doing other things because of the fact that they were finished the way that they were by the fighters that they fought. That's all. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, that's understandable, I would say. Yeah, and many names similar to you on my list. I've got RDA. He's the first guy who should retire. Of course, he was the former lightweight champion, so he doesn't need to get his ass beat anymore, and just retiring would be good for him.
No.
Next, Wonder Boy. He's had enough, and he also needs to just call it a day. And I think an interesting fight, rather, I would say, still a retirement fight. Probably you might disagree, but I would have Burns fight Colby and just tell him you both are fired after the fight is done, and we don't need your services.
Instead of a double retirement, you're both let go.
Yeah, that would be better, I would say. And the other
Nice.
other guys, I would say, one is D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. He's at enough share of wins and losses. And I think you missed one name, which is the prominent contender to have retired long ago, who has shifted his weight class from lightweight to welterweight for last few fights, and his name is Tony Ferguson. And I would just hold my hands together and pray to God, just don't let him ever fight again. Or if he fights, let it be his last fight, because I don't want to see him take so much damage anymore.
Oh,
And just
retire. Oh
Tony.
my God.
And don't freaking walk. Yeah, and don't freaking walk out with David Goggins. Okay, he's not going to do you any good. Just retire, Tony. Just retire, man. I mean, I don't know, man.
That is very good. Very good call. No, that's a good point, because it's like how did we miss how is he still being allowed to fight right now?
Yeah, I mean, 12 fight winning streak to 8 fight losing streak. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. And you should not be in a competition where you have to beat BJ Penn in the worst losing streak competition. And if you are in that competition, it's time to call it a day and just retire.
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah. Yeah. That's a depressing note. Being considered the welterweight middle lightweight boogeyman for the longest time to now it's almost like a joke. Like why are we still letting him fight? It's his next question. If you could, Dave, please.
What are some potential fantasy matchups at 170 that you would like to see?
I will defer the question to Larry. And Larry, I have a good feeling about some of the fights that you may have, because this is your question. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the first name that goes up is Conor, of course, because he is full of all the roids that are available over the counter, and he's not going to cut to lightweight ever again. So if a big if, I would say, I am repeating it thrice, but that's the quantum of if he ever comes back to UFC, he would be fighting at welterweight, because fighting Michael Chandler at middleweight makes no sense, because both of these guys are just dummies. And anyways, Conor would be back at welterweight. And as you said, Nate is always a name that is looming around whenever you have Conor fighting, because that is, of course, going to sell a lot of pay-per-views, and the media scrums would be fun, like the old days. Yeah, that could also happen. And apart from that, just a wild call, I would say Conor versus Masvidal is also something that could happen, because Masvidal can just call Dana and say, I need a paycheck, and Dana might give him one. So you never know. Because he's retired, but he's still in the UFC's contract, and he might just show up to fight. So that's one. And rather, I would say these are less likely to happen, and something I would say has a little more chance, maybe not that much of happening, but as a fan, I would like to see Jim Miller jump up from lightweight to welterweight and fight Tony Ferguson for their last.
Oh no! Don't do that to Tony.
So you want him to fight RDA and just get the same damage?
That's a winnable fight at least, because RDA is washed as well. Like, come on.
There are no easy fights for Tony Ferguson.
I mean, I would have been okay if you did Jim Miller.
And the stakes of that match should be loser retires and winner definitely retires.
Yeah. One of them gets a retirement package.
Yeah. The loser has to retire, of course, and the winner definitely retires. We don't want to see you ever again. Just retire for your sake, for your body and your family. You have had enough over the years.
Nice. That's a good list. I had me there. You had me.
There's not many matchups, but and if you just want to throw something more, I mean, there's always Islam moving up to welterweight, but I don't think that's probably going to happen as of now. So you can see him fighting for the belt, but I don't think it is very much likely until and unless Shaukat beats Belal, which I believe he would. But looking at the state of their injuries or unavailability, I would say it's tough for Islam to fit in another fight, maybe just jump up to welterweight, I would say.
Yeah, I agree at that point. Yeah. Timing usually is a little harder for Islam. And,
there's so many guys loading up the stable. So many guys are ready to take their shot at the welterweight belt. I mean, Gary, JDM, the list goes on.
Yeah, we don't need to add another contender that is a guy who already has his own fights to deal with at lightweight. Good point. Be a fun fight, but still. Let me say mine real quick, since we're still here on this question. Fun fight, not a fight that matters, but Gilbert Burns versus Kevin Gastelum. He can even make it at 175, so Kevin can make weight. It'd be fun. Kelvin Gastelum, doesn't have to worry about the wrestling as much because Gilbert's more willing to stand more often than not, even though he's, a really good grappler himself. I mean, that one would be fun to watch just because, two different eras, even though they're both probably around the same age. I think actually Burns is older than him. It'd be fun. I think that would be fun to watch. That'd be a fight night at the Apex for sure. And then Muslim Salikov versus Stephen Thompson. Two stand-up strikers, one with one specific weapon, and the other one who is kind of pitter-patter, but capable of, winning a fight. Both older, but different competitions for sure. Like Wonderboy is usually fighting the top guys, and Salikov is kind of hit and miss with the guys at the lower end of the top 20 of the division. But he's on 2-fight win streak currently, so that'd be interesting to see. That'd be one. Both, like you said, retirement fight for both of them. The other two are just kind of like Jeff Neal versus Jackie Three Names, and then Leon Edwards versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Just they're capable of happening, but there's less inclination for them to happen right now, kind of thing. But I would say Shavkat is actually versus Leon is a realistic possibility, and then you have Jackie Three Names versus Jeff Neal would be just a fun barn burner fight. If Jack Dillman Elena loses at all his next fight, or is just needs a fight, it'd be fun one to watch. But let's move on to the next question real quick. Dave, if you could, please.
What are some fighters from other promotions that you'd like to see in the UFC at 170 pounds?
I I have a hard time keeping up with what happens outside the UFC, primarily because I just don't have enough time to watch all the combat, sports out there. The ones that I will kind of go out of my way to, look for are primarily in the PFL Bellator range, and two of which fought each other, and the other two are also capable and just haven't fought recently. So I'll say the names real quick. Magomed Karamov, PFL tournament winner, and currently 6-0 since July 2022. And he's 34 years old. So he's capable, His last loss was to Ray Cooper III, but realistically, the dude's been, winning. And I would love to see him in the welterweight division. And then on top of it as well, Yaroslav Amosov from Bellator, whose only loss was to Jason Jackson. Interesting enough. He, is 31 and, 27-1. That dude, maybe a little bit grappling heavy, but that dude's also a very good fighter. Young enough to be, vaulted into the top 15 of the division and do very, very well, right? The others are Magomed Utamalov, gentleman who's 32, 17-1, who lost to Shamil Musayev, who is 30, 20-1 no contest. And that fight was interesting to me because it's just the end of the tournament. Two guys who are very, very good, who would also be very, very good inside the UFC welterweight division. Maybe gets a title fight, loses the title bid, but stays in the division and stays as a competitive fighter. Would love to see both of those guys inside the UFC. And then the last one was Ramzan Kurmagomedov, who has, interesting enough, a win over Jason Jackson inside of Bellator, and is 28 years old at 13-0. Though you may have noticed a theme with this one. They're all very good. They're all close to undefeated, if not undefeated themselves, and are tested. They're good fighters who probably aren't very, very expensive, who could be thrusted into the top 15 in the division and do very, very well, at least in my opinion. Don't know if any of them are going to be champions, but would be interesting to see.
Yeah, a welterweight doesn't have much big stars outside UFC, and I would say that's very Don Davies-like of you to say that you have a hard time keeping up with fights outside of UFC. Okay, you're still doing bad. You still do much better than him because that guy doesn't even watch MMA, even though he's kind of operating an organization. But yeah, anyways, neither here nor there.
He said it.
Yes. Yeah, I had the same two names written up on my list that you were included among. The first is Shamil Musayev, who won the EFL tournament this year in the welterweight division, and the runner-up, that was Magomed Umalatov. Yeah, he just got beat by the first guy I named. So that's probably some guys you can bring up. And right now, I was just looking at outside of UFC. I tried looking at ONE FC or Charteris, brilliant MMA organization, but there's no welterweight. I don't know. I wasn't able to write any fighters, so do better, Chartery. The 50,000 bahts, nothing. The other name or the organization that pops up in my head is KSW from Poland, because they carry good fighters, and I think DDP used to fight there, and he was a champion, and then he moved over to UFC. So looking at them, they have a good fighter. His name is Adrian Bartoszynski. His official record shows 16-1-0. So, and he's only 29-year-old. So there's probably a guy that UFC can try and get him in. But I don't think UFC needs to do anything, because the reality is that they have already so much on their hands with the amount of contenders that are lining up to fight for the belt. So I don't think they need anybody from outside the organization, like they did with Aya Sakura at flyweight, but there's nothing needed from outside, basically, I would say. And there's not even an extended list or any good quality fighters or somebody who's has a good reach with audience that they could bring up right now.
I agree. They don't need it, but it never hurts to bring in top talent from the outside. They've done it before. It would be nice to see a couple of older names be removed or names that were, coming up questions, yet no longer to be in the EOC. They kind of trade them out,
Who are some welterweights that you no longer need to see in the UFC? Like you don't want them cut, but just to like finish out their contracts, stop fighting, and ride off into the sunset.
The first fighter that I would not want to see is Colby Covington, but I don't know. He's probably having 3 or 4 more fights left on his contract, and I am not capable enough to suffer for 3 or more fights to see him fight again. So just can't even let him go. That's what I would say. But if I put my mind to it, I would say Gilbert Burns is definitely a name that should just finish his contract and just ride off into the sunset and never come back to get more CTE because my boy was winning for 2 rounds and just took a knee from JDM out of nowhere. Anyways, he's the name that should go away. And apart from that, as I said, Tony Ferguson, I don't know. Just burn down his contract, Dana. Don't let him fight anymore. Somebody. I'm considering him a welterweight now because his last couple of fights have been at the welterweight. And Wonderboy, just finish your contract and have UFC cut a promo or a send-off video made for you, and then just call it a day. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. No, I kind of struggle with names on this one too. Just because it's an interesting question to have. Alex Morono, for instance, middling fighter. Just he can't seem to beat the names he needs to beat, but he's never like in super exciting fights. Like he's good. He has his own gym and everything like that, but like he's just not. He's just not a top welterweight, and I wouldn't mind seeing him kind of go finish out his contract and just kind of be done with the UFC. I mean, Nico Price, he's got too many kids. I don't want to see him get cut. Just outside. He's a nice dude, interesting cat, but just I don't need to see him cut. I just don't need to see him in the UFC anymore. And then, Sembe Garimbo just was given an opportunity. I don't need to see him get cut, but we definitely don't need him in the UFC much longer. I mean, The Rock gave him a, opportunity to give him, stuff, but that's just, dude's not good enough to be here, and definitely not someone we need to see. That's all I had, more or less. So.
But I think, I mean, you saying that Nico Price should just finish off his career, that would not go well with Mrs. Price because a couple of more kids would be on the way pretty soon, I would say. So keeping him busy is the way and not making him unemployed.
There be opportunities outside, trust me. He's one of those guys who's probably going to be at KFC after this.
Just collect your pot of CT wherever you can get it.
I mean, it comes with the territory. You know what I mean?
That's whatever. Nobody cares about it. He just got KO'd by Robbie Lawler in his last fight. And
that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I liked watching. So, that's the most I cared about him was when he got knocked out. That's
he's had his moment. He unfortunately just on wrong end of his career, and he's still young enough. But neither here nor there.
There it is.
As the name says.
All right, let's move on to the last question of the show. And Dave, if you could, please.
What are some welterweights that you'd like to see at a different weight class than they currently fight at? And 165 and 175 pound mythical weight classes are in play.
I will start this, and mine will be short. Phil Rowe should be going up to middleweight because he's constantly missing as a tall welterweight. You'd think that he'd kind of get his weighting in order, but like Brian Battle, he's made multiple misses and he hasn't, unlike, winning like Brian Battle, he's lost. He can't seem to beat the guys he needs to beat in this weight class, and might as well like go up to a striker division that's got a bunch of guys for him to fight. Middleweight's calling for him. I would say that's his next move. Kelvin Gastelum, 175, of course, but this is kind of like a homerism kind of thing for me, because it's like he was always struggling as a small middleweight, but struggled at welterweight because he just had trouble making the weight. So it's like I would prefer if there was a 175 weight class, that would be for him, 100%. He can eat a little bit, but he can also be somewhat disciplined. That would be nice. And then lastly, Colby and Luque, Vicente Luque and Colby Covington, 165. If they could somehow manage to make 165 in the UFC, both of those guys would have been competitors in that weight class, 100%. Yeah. But that's all I have. That's all.
Yeah, I had same names, I would say, out of the few you said. So Colby, I also put Burns in there. For one, I'm talking about 165 pounds, because Burns used to fight at lightweight and he's not that big for welterweight up still. So I would say he can cut to 165 and he would fit in well. And also Luke, as you said, is not a big welterweight and he could fit in there. And apart from that, I don't think there's too many welterweights that would go down to 165. Maybe there are lightweights, because those guys make some huge weight cuts and they could probably jump up to 165, I would say. So
yeah,
just from welterweight, I think that's Colby, Burns, and Luque. Some of the probable fighters that could go over to 165 pound division. And for 175 pounds, I would say I would bring down Hamzat over there, because in welterweight or in a middleweight division, there are probably one or two contenders or one or two big names left for him to beat. I mean, there's GDP and Izzy is already fighting Imavo. And let's just say if Izzy loses, then there's no sense in making Hamzat versus Izzy. And all that is left for Hamzat to fight is just one guy, GDP. And I mean, he can fight Sean Strickland but everybody knows he's going to beat him already. But DTP is the name that I would say holds many challenge for Hamzat to get to the middleweight title. And he's definitely a guy who can beat him, I would say, in my opinion. So I would rather bring back Hamzat down to 175 and bump few guys from 170, because as we just discussed, I mean, the division is completely stacked and there are a lot many fighters who can challenge Hamzat and we can have some fun matchups. Apart from that, I would fit in Kevin Holland at 175, because he's been jumping around from welterweight to middleweight and he's suitable for welterweight, but he doesn't like to cut too much weight. So I would rather have him fight at 175. And another name would be Usman, because the age is definitely catching up with him and he's got so much muscle. I mean, I can't imagine how he's cutting to 170 pounds. So I would rather have him fight at 175 at his age. And of course, there's guys like the legends who like to miss weights on purpose, like Kelvin Gastelum, because my boy can't stay off the burgers in the white week.
Hey,
and just show up shamelessly on the scales to miss the weight. So I would rather have him. Sorry, maybe he pulled out of the fight. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he's definitely a guy who would fit in for 175 pound division. And also Brian Better, because he got some heat for missing weight and acting like a clown, I would say. So
yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, goodness.
That's what fits at 165 and 175 for me.
No, good list. Yeah, and I agree with Brian Battle. Like it's like he's missed weight multiple times in this weight class, and the last one was like just he didn't give a shit either. It's like make the weight, man, make the weight. You don't get to act like a a badass when you keep missing weight. But it's neither here nor there, as the name suggests of the show.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Yeah.
Yes. I had fun. I had fun with this. This is good. Before we end, did you have any closing remarks or statements on welterweight as a whole? Anything we discussed today?
Yeah, we had a good one, I would say. A lot of fun. And welterweight division is going to be a lot of fun, I would say. And hopefully, we do have many fight night, main events. Like middleweight always shows up, and there's always heavyweight that's popping up. Seeing some donks fighting at the apex, but I would rather have some welterweights fight in the main event more in 2025, I would say, because they deserve the spotlight, because there's some real talent in this division, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Plenty of names, plenty of fight night main events. I mean, realistically, there are some very interesting matchups that we have yet to have in this division, and plenty of names that we would like to see fight in 2025. Yeah, it's not an embarrassment of riches per se, but a plethora of great talent that exists in welterweight. And
A what? A plethora. Oh, yes. You have a plethora. Jefe, what is a plethora? Why, guapo? Well, you told me I have a plethora. And I just would like to know if you know what a plethora is. I would not like to think that a person would tell someone he has a plethora and find out that that person has no idea what it means to have a plethora.
honestly, it's a very stacked division. People may not agree, but you and I both appreciate what talent that exists in welterweight is. And with that, we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you for joining us, Larry, in our welterweight deep dive today. And honestly, I had a blast doing this. Looking up all the information was fun. And thank you, Dave, our editor-in-chief, with Stephen Chatry as well. And this goes to neither here nor there. And thank you. Please like and subscribe, and have fun, you guys. Thank you.
Quick pick on the way out. Shavkat versus Bilal. Who you got?
I was thinking Shavkat. Now I might have to lean Bilal. Yeah, Bilal. I think I might have to pick Bilal. Yeah.
I'm taking Shavkat all the way.
Okie dokie. Can I get a fuck you, Craig, to our boy Craig making his big return?
Oh yeah, fuck you, Craig. Piece of shit.
He was never my friend.
Failed us.
Craig was never his friend. God damn it. All right, guys. Great job.
We did it.
Let's put the ribbon on this. Yeah, good one, guys. Thanks for having me. Genuinely.
Did you say plethora of great talent?
I said plethora.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I used the word correctly. I'm not a thesaurus, so I don't know. I believe
it's a meme, Austin. I guess you're too young to get it.
No, I mean, I would probably not. I'm kind of behind on my memes.
It's a meme from it's a meme. Plethora of something is a meme that you're too young to get. You freaking zoomer.
Okay. Okay, that's millennial. Fuck you. Anyway.
Close this out.